This is Newsfeed, a look at what people are talking about online, from news stories to pop culture and what's trending. But videos go viral on social media for many reasons. Animals doing cool stuff, babies being babies, natural disasters. But once in a while, the internet explodes when something extraordinary happens. And few political events have been more extraordinary than the political story in Britain of the past few weeks. Now Rishi Sunak has become the United Kingdom's third Prime Minister in as many months. Here's Sarah Morris in Downing Street.
Well, welcome to British politics. It's been described as a circus of absurdity. And here we are standing outside number 10 Downing Street, waiting to hear from the third Prime Minister in just 7 weeks. Now, Rishi Sunak, he's 42. That makes him the youngest British PM in about 200 years. He's also the first British PM of Indian heritage to take office, and he's practicing Hindu. That's a first as well. But the old Prime Minister, Liz Truss, she has sent a tweet congratulating him, saying, "You have my full support." I mean, really? He ousted her, and does any politician ever have the full support of another? Opposition parties have also called for an immediate general election. The deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, said this is a coronation, not an election. Rishi Sunak has no mandate, and the British people have had no say. And across the channel, Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, has also weighed in. He says working together is the only way to face common challenges, and bringing stability is key to overcoming them. So here we are, beginning a new era. However, we do seem to begin those with alarming pace here in the UK. So who knows how long this one will last.
Well, as Sarah just said, Rishi Sunak is the youngest Prime Minister since William Pitt the Younger. He was just 24 years old. Also, that Sunak is the first Hindu British Prime Minister, the third leader in just 7 weeks. Here are some essential facts that are much more interesting. Sunak is a massive Star Wars fan and wanted to be a Jedi Knight when he grew up. His favourite Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back. He loves football and supports his hometown team, Southampton. One of his prized possessions was an 18th birthday card signed by the entire team. Well, Sunak has confessed to eating a double chocolate muffin every morning and 2 biscuits with his afternoon cup of tea. He's also had to cut down on his favourite drink, Coca-Cola. He says he's no longer a Coke addict, his words, but now just drinks it once a week. And at one point, he didn't want to be Prime Minister. 2 years ago, when asked if he wanted to be the big cheese, he said, "God, no, definitely not," seeing what the Prime Minister has to deal with. But British-Indian relations hit an all-time low under the previous Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Can Rishi Sunak help repair the damage? Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi thinks so. He congratulated Sunak, saying he looks forward to working closely on global issues. Modi also sent special Diwali greetings to the living bridge of UK Indians as we transform our historic ties into a modern partnership. But why mention the new British Prime Minister's race at all? Well, unfortunately, for some, skin colour defines class, level of intelligence, and status in community. But during a live radio show on LBC that's leading Britain's conversation, someone claiming to be a Tory member questioned Sunak's background and Britishness. The presenter, Sangeeta Maiska, was understandably shocked when the caller said, quote, "Rishi Sunak isn't even British," and that, quote, "he doesn't represent Britain."
We want Boris back, and Boris has the best chance of winning the general election next time. So Rishi's not going to win it. Rishi's not even British, in most people's opinion. He's not. He's got American allegiance. His family's American. They're Indian business people. He'll go and live in America, no doubt. He doesn't love England like Boris does.
Is the real problem here, Jerry, that Rishi Sunak is a brown man and you don't trust him at the top of this country?
Well, could you imagine him going to the Scottish Nationalists and being the Prime Minister of the Scottish Nationalists? Could you imagine me becoming the Prime Minister of Pakistan or Saudi Arabia? No, these things matter. I'm sorry you don't like it.
On the other hand, many are proud of how cosmopolitan Britain is. 7 years ago, the Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron, was giving a speech in India where he told the crowd about Britain's diverse parliament. It even predicted a British-Indian Prime Minister for the UK.
The British public did something momentous. They elected more members of Parliament of Indian origin than there have ever been before. With Rishi Sunak, Alok Sharma, Suella Fernandez in Parliament, with Shailesh Vara in the Ministry of Justice, and with Priti Patel sat at my cabinet table, I know one thing. It won't be long till there is a British Indian Prime Minister in Downing Street.
Of course, we're still following Ukraine and Russia, which are still trading accusations over who might be preparing to use a so-called dirty bomb in the conflict. The blame game began on Sunday and has not gone away. In fact, both sides have doubled down on their position. Moscow says it'll discuss the matter at the UN Security Council on Tuesday, while saying it will, quote, regard the use of the dirty bomb by the Kyiv regime as an act of nuclear terrorism. Well, Ukraine, meanwhile, insists it's got nothing to hide. To prove it, the government's invited the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect its facilities. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba says he hopes the visit will put an end to Russia's dirty bomb disinformation campaign. Well, NATO members have also rejected Russian allegations with a warning to Moscow against using this as a pretext to ramp up attacks on Ukraine.
It would certainly be another example of President Putin's brutality if he were to use a so-called dirty bomb. There would be consequences for Russia, whether it uses a dirty bomb or a nuclear bomb.
Our reporter in Moscow, Dasha Chernoshova, has the perspectives of people in Russia.
Among the Russian officials and the representatives of new Russian territories, there is little doubt that Ukraine has the capacity to put together the dirty bomb. They say that the Western partners will deliver or have already delivered the low-grade nuclear charge to Ukraine. There is little doubt in Moscow that the Western countries are actually behind those possible provocations, particularly now that it is Moscow that is being accused. At the same time, the Russians themselves are really worried about the possible consequences of the use of the dirty bomb. So they say they will go beyond Ukraine's border and call for the common sense to prevail. The critics at the same time say that Ukraine has already hit Russia with, quote, the dirty bomb. They picture these piles of waste within the boundaries of the Russian cities, referring to the problem of waste management, which is yet to be dealt with in many of the Russian cities. They also pose the cars with the Russian number plates, often with the Z symbol, that are mired in mud, which is also called dirt in Russian. So analysts say that the world is entering the most dangerous month ever as they put together all of the global events and particularly the strengthening of the Chinese leader after the end of the Congress. And they say that the most terrible events will happen now or never.
Let's talk about Ethiopia. The conflict there has brought about one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. But now it seems there's a glimmer of hope to end the fighting that's already left thousands of people dead and hundreds of thousands on the brink of famine. For the first time, the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front are meeting for peace talks. The talks are being held in South Africa and are likely to be intense as both sides accuse the other of war crimes. The Ethiopian government says it views the talks as an opportunity to peacefully resolve what's been happening and improve the situation on the ground. And a spokesperson for the TPLF pretty much lists the group's demands, which are an immediate cessation of hostilities, unfettered humanitarian access, and the withdrawal of Eritrean troops. Well, all sounds pretty cozy, right? They say they want peace, but pundits and humanitarian organizations aren't sure there's much commitment. I mean, how can Ethiopia talk about laying down arms while government forces are actively on an offensive in Tigray? A vocal critic of the government, the World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros, says the situation has resulted in a man-made famine, and he's repeated calls for safe humanitarian access. And this human rights and migration scholar agrees, saying the most urgent task is to save lives by stopping all fighting and delivering aid. He adds that peace and security for Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa are contingent on ending the war. A Take-Off Startup Summit has taken off in Istanbul. It hosts 75 entrepreneurs from 62 different countries, and being part of Technofest Istanbul, Aerospace and Technology Festival, Take-Off Istanbul is the biggest technology event in the region, bringing together more than 200 startups, 100 VCs, accelerators, and multinational companies from all over the world.
Participants from over 60 different countries are here in Takeoff Istanbul. It's one of the largest entrepreneurship gatherings in the region. And their goal is to establish an ecosystem where investors and leading companies in the aerospace defense sector and in aviation and in a variety of other fields such as health sector can come together all in one place. Now, Dr. Haluk Görgün, the general manager of Aselsan, one of Turkey's leading defense companies, also hopes to establish an entrepreneurship ecosystem where both innovations in the defense sector can be applied to everyday life. And we've also seen Seljuk Bayraktar, the famous maker of the Bayraktar drone that's changed the battlefield. He's also established a fund for entrepreneurs and for startups, and he's considered a founding visionary for many entrepreneurs, not only here in Turkey, but around the region as well. And with so many different participants from all over the world coming here, sharing a common goal and using technology to improve people's lives in new and innovative ways.
But here's a look at what's trending at this time. Another Hollywood light has gone out. This time it's Emmy Award-winning actor Leslie Jordan. He died in Los Angeles on Monday. Police say the 67-year-old suffered a medical emergency before crashing his car. Well, the comic actor's career began in the early 80s. He then later starred in Will and Grace, American Horror Story, and The Help. It was during the pandemic that he shot to internet fame with hilarious and candid videos about his daily life.
The trumpets of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal bright and fair.
People on Twitter have flooded the platform with condolences. Many called Leslie the light they needed in a dark time. This person wrote, "Leslie literally held us together during the pandemic." And Linda Carter, best known for her role as Wonder Woman in the 70s, said Leslie put a smile on the faces of so many people. She added that it feels so cruel that this could happen to such a beautiful soul. Well, it might sound bizarre, but burying your cotton underwear could help determine how healthy soil is. It's a method used by Indian farmers for generations. The fabric is left underground for 60 days, and when dug up, if it's disintegrated, then that means the soil is rich in microbes necessary to grow healthy crops. The UN study supports this not-so-scientific test. The organization says up to 40% of agricultural land has been degraded because of intense farming. And to put a stop to the worsening crisis, a popular Indian guru named Sadhguru has been leading a global campaign called Save Soil. He says soil rich in bacteria and fungi means better food and therefore better for us. He's calling on authorities to give incentives to farmers to keep their soil rich in organic content.
In normal agricultural soil, the minimum organic content should be between 3 to 6%. The most minimum is 3%. At least this minimum to keep the soil alive, to keep the soil as living soil is a must. The nutrient levels have dropped significantly. The level of micronutrients you would get from your food in early 20th century to what you are getting from the same food now has dropped 90%. If you ate one orange in 1920s, what you got from it. Now, in 2020, if you have to get the same, you will have to eat 8 oranges.
Well, some people will do anything for attention. Take Josh Nally, for instance. He's a 42-year-old man with a TikTok account full of videos of himself playing dead. Why, you ask? Oh, easy. To nab a role on TV, obviously. Well, after a long year of hard work doing whatever this is, it seems Josh's tactic worked. CBS has offered the guy a part in one of its CSI Las Vegas episodes. Guess what role it is? Yes, it's a corpse. I wonder what they pay for that. Well, most schools complain about students cheating during exams, and they try to come up with ways to prevent it. Well, a class of mechanical engineering students at a university in the Philippines have gone viral for their creative method. Well, their professor, Mary Joy Mandani Ortiz, tasked her students to build so-called anti-cheating hats that would stop them from peeking at others' papers. Her initial request had been for students to make simple designs out of paper, But many of these future engineers responded by creating elaborate headgear using fabric, cardboard and egg boxes. We're not sure if the students could concentrate on their tests at all, but they sure look like they had fun. And that's how we end this episode of Newsfeed. For more content, you can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe if you like. Until next time, bye.